When I was around 9, I went to summer camp at the nearby YMCA for a few summers. It was a day camp, and there were different camps you could do, such as water sports, crafts, canoeing, etc. Each camp lasted for 1 week. I started the summer by taking one of the craft camps, a special one that lasted 2 weeks. I was really excited about it, but I was nervous because I didn't know anyone in my group, and I'm very shy. The first day, I managed to make friends with an older kid who was in a wheelchair. He was 17, I believe. I'm not sure what his disability was, but he was socially awkward and kind of gave off a creepy vibe. I was trying to be nice to him, but no one else talked to him, but he started to make me uncomfortable. First, he'd start by talking about how much he hated being in a wheelchair because it made his back hurt. He liked being able to get out at the end of the day and stretch, as well as do some exercises with his physical therapist. I just smile and nod as he talked about this, not knowing what else to say. At some point I mentioned to him how I was a dancer and really like acrobatics class. He asked me to show him some of my moves, so I did a cartwheel. He told me that my legs looked beautiful when I stretched them. I like that. Being a kid, I didn't think much of that comment, but I started to get uncomfortable when he began telling me how much he liked my hair, or how white my teeth were, or how cute I was because I was so little. One day he was talking about stretching out outside of his wheelchair, and mentioned how good it would feel if someone were to walk on his back. You'd be perfect, just the right size. Would you do that for me one day? I'd love to have you on top of me. He smiled creepily when he said this, so I awkwardly changed the direction of the conversation by telling him how I used to do that for my dad. I was young and stupid. I probably shouldn't have told him that. He got really excited and started talking about how much he'd love it and how it must have felt for my dad. I bet he loves having his little girl on top of him like that. He reached out his knee to me at this point and put his hand on my knee. He reached out to me at this point and put his hand on my knee. We were sitting by a table in the craft cabin. I awkwardly shrugged it off, moving away a little. He smiled and started talking about how good it would feel if I were to do cartwheels on his back and jump on him. Maybe even lay down on top of him and rub his sides. I got really uncomfortable at this point, and luckily my mom drove up a moment later, so I was able to leave. This was on the weekend, and the camp was going to continue the following Monday. I didn't mention anything to my mom because I figured he was just lonely and awkward and didn't mean to be creepy. But when I got back to the camp Monday, he immediately came up to me. I was so upset that I couldn't see you this weekend. I missed my little girl. I smiled and awkwardly walked away, but he followed me. We were all going as a group to the craft cabin, and he came up next to me and asked if I wanted to sit in his lap and ride to the cabin with him. I politely declined and managed to avoid him for the rest of the day until I was walking to my mom's car at the end of the day. He came up to grab my hand and pulled me towards him. You've really hurt me today. How would you like if I hurt you? I yanked my hand away and walked away quietly to the car. I told my mom about it as soon as I got in the car. She immediately drove over to the camp office and spoke with the camp leader about it, who I shared my story with. He assured us he would take care of it immediately. As we were driving away after the meeting, I saw two counselors go up to the boy and lead him to the camp office. The look on his face looked like he was going to murder someone. I never saw him after that. I was told that he was kicked out of camp and never allowed to return, and for the rest of the week, the camp counselors would check on me and make sure I was okay. So, creepy boy from summer camp, I hope you got your issues worked out and that you're living a happy life now. But please, let's not meet again. A few years ago, I worked at a Jewish summer camp in North Georgia. As you might know, Georgia is a fairly conservative state as well as being predominantly Christian. There are small Jewish communities and a few summer camps. I'd say this camp was more culturally Jewish than it was religious. There were no religious requirements nor religion-specific focus. Rather, it was a place for kids who were often in the minority to come to camp that allowed them to meet some other kids like them. Staff came from all over. We had many Australians, lots of Brits, and a few Israelis, and people from various areas of the USA. Each night at around 10, most of the staff was able to go out on the town for a couple of hours. Enough staff remained behind to watch over the cabins we rotated. This particular night, a group of about 5 of us decided to go to a local bar to grab a few beers. It had been a hot day and it was a humid night, so we needed to sit outside on the patio. For some backstory in the town, generally we were extremely well received by the community, despite differences. We brought in lots of revenue for the town during the summer. We bought supplies at the local Walmart and often took the campers on tubing trips or occasionally out to dinner after a long hike on the Appalachian Trail. It was midsummer, so we'd been out to the bars in the area many times already that session. The 5 of us sat around a table drinking and discussing the events of the day, and fellow employees typically would after work. About 30 minutes in, a white man in his 20s came up to our table. I distinctly remember a jagged scar on his cheek, but didn't think much of it at the time. He introduced himself, then told us that he was having a party that night at his place. Anyone can come, he said. Black, white, gay, straight? I found it odd that he'd open his speech with that disclaimer. Of course, the party should be open to everyone. Why did he feel the need to specify? But we'd all had a few beers and were feeling pretty loose. He talked for a bit longer and nothing really seemed off. We told him we were working at a camp in the area and couldn't stay out, so we'd probably be heading back soon. An hour later, our group went out to the parking lot to get into the car. As we approached it, we saw the same guy come out of the shadows. He had a buddy with him with a shaved head. His expression was incredibly hateful. His eyes had changed. He pounded his fist into his hand, then took off his shirt and revealed a poorly inked SS tattoo. My stomach dropped. One of the bigger guys in my group, Kevin, immediately retracted by pulling a knife out of his pocket. At summer camp, most of us started carving knives. We spent a lot of time building campfires, etc., and asked what they wanted. The original guy started shouting some anti-Semitic remarks and told us he was going to beat us down. Kevin started walking towards the guy, but we pulled him back. He told us his buddies were on the way. Sure enough, some more guys started walking into the parking lot. It's all kind of blurry here. I remember jumping into one of the cars, pulling Kevin with us. It felt like we were surrounded, though there were probably only 7 or 8 of them. Rocks were thrown at the car. We sped off. My heart was beating like crazy. We never went back to that bar again. On the bright side, when we told the story to the competing bar in town, the bartender lined up six shots, cheered us, and said we'd always be welcome in his bar in that town. He had no more problems in the town. Itself, but when I took some campers on a 2-day hike up the Appalachian Trail, it was another story. So, creepy guy at the bar who wanted to try and fight my friends and I. Let's not meet ever again.